Alright, howdy, and welcome to a video on the WW2 Post Scriptum mod for Squad. Today I have the privilege to interview some of the people working on this mod. If you guys could introduce yourselves so the viewers know who is who, then we can get going.
Hi guys, I'm Brazo. I'm the lead project on the Post Scriptum, and I'm also doing modeling, texturing, and a bit of level design.
Hi guys, my name is Raiki and I'm a level designer for Post Scriptum. I basically make maps from real life data from World War II maps from the region on Operation Market Garden and make those maps as accurate as possible based on that data.
Okay, and I'm Scrub. I'm the audio designer for Post Scriptum. Basically making weapon sounds, explosions, ambience, everything that we hear in the game, taking, again, like Raiki, and accurate references from the time. And yeah, there we go.
Awesome, well thank you guys for having me first of all, obviously.
Cool.
So I have a couple of questions here, and I believe, and this is not 100% sure, but I believe Post Scriptum is Latin. Now I didn't Google it, but is there a reason why you named your mod Post Scriptum the Bloody Seventh?
Yes, the reason is it's quite simple. Is we wanted to avoid the cheesy name based on heroes, something, and browsers and all that. We like the approach of something more like subtle, and the Post Scriptum is what you write at the very end of your letters when you are on the front. We don't want to make a distinction in between the allies or the Axis. I mean, everybody was sending mail to their family and a girlfriend, and so we want to have like some kind of neutral ground, and we like the idea of that name. As for the Bloody Sevens, it's during Operation Market Garden, the seventh bridge, the one close to Arnhem, was the one where they parachuted the first airborne, and that's where the action is going to happen.
All right. Then another question, which I mean is, I came up with like immediately the second I saw like your mod was in development. There's so many shooters out there. Now I don't particularly have a dislike or a like for Squad. I think it's a pretty good game. But why did you pick Squad as the base for your World War II mod?
A few reasons is I kind of like the gameplay itself of Squad, but I've started playing Squad last year, I think in December when it got released on Steam, and yeah, I instantly liked it. I played a bit of PR back in the days, and I'm personally I'm a big fan of World War II Online, and that's my wet dream would be to make something similar, but we don't have that kind of resource. So Squad is good in between like hardcore simulation like Arma or yeah, let's say Flashpoint back in the days, and it's not totally simulation, but it's not too arcade or arcadey. The maps are quite big, and big part of the game is team play. So for me, I can see a great potential in the World War II game, because I know there are a shit ton of World War II games and more being developed at the moment. Uh, we are different because every game I see based on World War II at the moment, it's basically remakes from Call of Duty 2 or Call of Duty 1, and some are doing something closer to Battlefield 1942, which we are not. We are going for the squad approach, but with World War II assets.
Yeah, I also think with the Squad community, there's a lot of modders in it because of the PR community as well. They seem to have uh, came over to Squad and saw that it was more updated and new, and people liked that, and they thought, let's try and make some new mods on the Squad architecture. And because of UE4, it's so much easier to do that.
Yeah, true. I mean, I played Iron Front. At the time, it was like a mode that became a game for Arma. And the Arma engine, I mean, there is just no way I'm going to mod on the Bohemia engine.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
Unreal
hard.
yeah, it's pretty hard. And with Unreal, I don't know. I don't have that much experience with the Arma as the modder. But I like Unreal Engine because for me, I was working and I'm still working for visual effects for cinema and stuff. And working with Unreal Engine, it's quite close to my actual job. So I feel very comfortable inside Unreal.
Okay. I mean, you guys both just mentioned PR. It's actually funny that you mentioned Iron Front because that just got a like a relive on a Steam Workshop because they introduced like the light version. But you both mentioned PR, and then I kind of got to ask this. Like, I don't like being this guy, but obviously, you could say that Squad is kind of like PR 2.0. At least that's what they're trying to be, and that's what I believe when the devs said they were going to aim for, like a more streamlined, standalone version of PR. What will your mod bring that will make it stand out or make people choose that over World War II PR?
Well, the first things from PR World War II is we have a couple of their developers, Archilder and Ratface. So we have people who are actually involved in that project. So we kind of have the same idea, the same route. And well, the first big difference is quite obvious. It's the visual. I mean, the engine from Battlefield 2 has nothing to do with Unreal Engine 4. I mean, it's Unreal Engine 4 is way better, and it's still being developed at the moment, so it's going to get better and better. So I like PR World War II, so if we get close to that, and I think we already are as close as PR World War II, we are trying to be even better. But yeah, visually it's going to be a big difference, and based on Squad, because I do like the Squad gameplay, it's going to stay very similar. We have a few features that we want to add in the future. We already added some as of today. So basically, it's going to be a visual upgrade, and the gameplay will be slower than Squad because we don't have that many automatic riflemen and stuff that we have in Squad.
So one could say that where the Squad devs were trying to make PR 2.0, you're trying to make not as an insult, but you're trying to make PR World War II 2.0, basically.
Yeah, I think we could say it that way, yeah.
Okay. Well, then, there's another question. I personally am from the region near Arnhem. It's actually pretty funny. Like, the bridges you talk about are a 10-minute drive for me. That always interests me. Like, why did you and your team pick like this battle, this era? I mean, you can go from 1939 to 45. You got Pacific, you got Western Front, you got Eastern Front. You got so many battles. Why did you guys particularly go for this year, this front, these guys? I mean, you could have picked Eindhoven or Nijmegen and went for Americans versus the Germans. So, like, why did you guys specifically go for the British versus the Germans near Arnhem?
Well, at the very, very beginning of the project, I mean, we are back in January of this year, so January 2016. And when I was alone and I was doing Normandy, you know, the classic, when you want to do a World War II game, you just do Normandy. And then I met Art Schilder, the developer from PR World War II, and we both kind of agreed that, okay, maybe doing Normandy again is not such a great idea. So we talked about Africa, and then we talked about Pacific and stuff. And I don't know, kind of Market Garden. I don't know, when we stopped talking about that, I thought like, yeah, there's something to do. I'm a big fan of Brothers in Arms, the Hell's Highway. So I was like, yeah, I can see Squad in there.
Okay. Now, obviously, I'm assuming that you don't want to release too much information, or you cannot release too much information because you just don't have it like at the ready. But as you just mentioned some stuff that in Squad, obviously you have lots of automatic rifles and just lots of weapons that just can produce like a lot more volume of fire than you have weapons in World War II. So does that mean that obviously you have a sniper class, you have like an SL class? I'm assuming those obviously stayed, but how about are you going to try and make historical accurate squads where the German squads will be based around like the MG and the British squads will have a lot more rifles? Or like how are you in the game, like how are you going to try and look at that versus the actual squad where there's so many like automatic weapons, AKs, M16s, and like everything?
The main idea at the moment is we want to offer the players like multiple options. So let's say you have some hardcore players who love historical things, then we are going to give them like a different type of squad where you only have the actual units that were there on that specific day. So if we are doing the Hillsome battle, it was on the 17th of September 1944, then we do have reports that say exactly how many troops were there, how many Panzer IV, how many everything. So we plan to make like an additional mode. We might call it something like historically accurate, or I don't know, maybe something catchier than these. So then they would be able to just replay the history with the actual gear. So I mean, the British airborne, if you know the story, it went terribly wrong for them. So if you want to play as the British in the historically accurate mode, then you know you are going to have a hard time. But again, that's how it was.
Okay, so you are trying to please both a little bit more casual. I mean, that's maybe like a bit of an offensive word to some people, but you're going to try and please casual players by just having like the squad experience, but World War II based, and you want to like please people that have a more like historical, I don't know, kind of idea about games, and so they can actually be the British fighting against like the overwhelming mighty German panzer armies.
Well, when you are saying please the casual gamer, I mean, that's kind of killing me inside a bit. So I'm going to explain. We're not here to please the casual gamer. We want to do something balanced, not based on historical fact, but something balanced. So if the German have like 2 Tiger 1 and 3 Panzer 4, obviously this is unbalanced to have less paratroopers and no tank support. So we might bias the history and give them the 30 corps from the British Army. So we will have like Sherman 76 and all those big tanks. They were not in Hillsdom on the 17th of September, but just to balance the game. But no, we don't want to please the casual gamer.
Okay, well that's what I was basically trying to ask. Like, is there going to be a game mode where you don't have 1 Tiger versus 30 paratrooper or something? But apparently you're going to have that mode. Now, this is something that's more like a question for everyone, because this is something that greatly interests me. I'm a World War II nut myself. I saw your pictures on Facebook like the day I like learned of your mod, and I must have spent, I don't know, God knows what, like an hour and a half scrolling through your pictures, looking at like every single detail. Of the current weapons and vehicles you have in the mod, what would be your favorite vehicle and weapon for each and every one of you? Because that's like something I'd like to hear of the devs themselves.
Yeah, let's try Ken and then the scrub, and I'll finish.
Yeah, sure. Well, I particularly like the MG42. I think everyone does, really. You can just mow entire squads down with that in a couple of seconds. But yeah, either that. I also like the Tiger as well. That everyone always chooses that as well.
So you've gone for 42 in the Tiger.
Yeah,
like
maybe I'm
standard,
biased. German. I'm biased towards Germans, maybe. But yeah, never choose the Piat for the British because it's just crap.
Oh, you just spoiled mine.
Sorry.
For me, favorite weapon, again, it's going to be German. It's the G43 at the moment. Basically because it's a bit more effective than our bolt actions, obviously, because you haven't got a bolt every round. And I've just finished the sound design for it recently, actually, and it's one of my favorites so far. And the vehicle, I'd say Panzer IV, again, German, which feels a bit contrary to what
We're a bit biased. Yeah.
But yeah, G43 and Panzer IV.
Yeah, that's a good combo. For me, weapon-wise, yeah, we were joking about the Piat, as we tried to make it as accurate as it was in the day, and I've read some report of people that they had to go like 30 meters behind the tank, and they were not even sure that they were going to hit that tank. So we made it as accurate as it was. It's terrible, really, really bad. But my favorite weapon, I mean, yeah, hands down, it's the STG-44, and for the vehicle, I don't know. I like the Panzer IV. Looks good, but I might go with the Panther.
It's funny you mentioned the STG because that's probably like my go-to weapon if it's about like 1943, 1944, and you're talking about German weapons. That's like my go-to weapon. People that watch the video obviously know that and already be writing comments about that. But it's funny that one of you mentioned the sounds and how you were just like done making the one for the G43, because I'm assuming, and I'm assuming you don't have an MG42 or a Tiger or like a Lee Enfield or like anything of that kind in your backyard, which you can just like
Not
have a
yet.
microphone next to it and record the sound. So how do you get the sounds for these guns? Do you like make them with your mouth, or do you like use a program, or like how do you make the weapon / tank sounds or vehicle sounds in general?
Oh, I love this question. So basically, we have two sound libraries currently. One, which is a Second World War weapons and pistols pack, and then we have a Second World War tank engine pack as well, which is absolutely amazing. Basically, the way it works is I'll take a sample from a weapon that I'm trying to do, say a Lee Enfield, and it's not just going to use one sample and then we stick it in game. I'll use a digital audio workstation like Logic Pro, Pro Tools, something like that, and then I'll layer up all of the samples, sort of design it myself and try and make it sound accurate, but at the same time, feel fun to shoot. Put like mechanical layers over it, so the sound of the bolt when you pull it back and chamber the next round. I'll do reload sounds and stuff. That can be stuff that I've recorded myself. And then once all that's sort of done and all packaged up into first-person sounds, reload sounds, third-person sounds over distance, that is then put into Unreal Engine 4, and I'll spend a couple of days just sort of messing around with that and getting that up to the standard that we want. So it's not a case of downloading the sound and putting it in game. There's a lot more to it than that. But yeah, like you said, we don't have access to all this stuff. But
the real thing.
No, I wish I did, but
to do a great impression of the shell bouncing off a tank.
yeah, I could. Yeah, well, we'll see what I can do for that. But
Might be another mod.
Yeah, but yeah, our tank. I'm really excited for our vehicles actually because we're very well. I'm very close to finishing our weapon sounds as a first pass. I'll be going over a few in the future as well, but I'm very excited for our tanks and how I can get them to sound, because looking at how the BTR and stuff is set up in Vanilla Squad, looking in the folders and the queues and stuff, I have an idea of what needs to be done, and now it's just a case of trying to make stuff, well, scary mainly.
When you say that, like scary, I remember my first game of Squad. Well, not my first game, but one of my first games after the BTR was introduced. Mm-hmm. And I had my audio. I normally have it quite low, but I was messing around and I had it up like on like half volume basically. And I was talking to my friend, and his BTR comes rolling up, and I was talking to him over the radio, and it starts like opening up, probably like 6 feet away from me. I was crouched underneath the barrel almost. Yeah. And I threw my headset away. That's how like that it actually hurt my ears. Now, when thinking of Tigers and MG42s, are you aiming for like the ear rapey sounds where it's like it's too good that you can barely hear anything but like the gun going off of like a big tank or like an MG42?
It's gonna be really fucking loud. Basically, I'm currently in the stage of bringing all of our weapons up to the current volume level of all of the squad weapons, and things like the MG42 are going to be a bit louder. The cannons and the main battle tank cannons are going to be really loud as well. That's basically going to drown out anything for about 3 seconds. Same with explosions and stuff. So it's going to be accurate to, in the sense that you're not going to be able to hear someone 10 meters away if there's a tank firing next to you, or even just sat idle next to you with its engine like revving and stuff. So yeah, I want it to sound scary. We want it to sound accurate, loud, and
loud is very important. I feel like in
loud, but at the same time, in sound design, loud isn't always better, but in some cases it is.
Now, obviously, you're basing this off of Squad, and I mean, we're just talking about like they added a BTR, they're adding stuff. Eventually, I mean, I'm assuming Squad is trying to be like PR, so they're going to be adding helicopters, maybe even some planes. Are you going to be following Squad kind of like the way they're doing their game? Obviously, I mean, there was no helicopters in World War II, but are you going to be following the way they do it? Or are you using Squad as like the base, just like, you copying the basics and then making your own game off of it? Or are you going to follow what they do and like keep up with their updates?
Well, we kind of have to follow with their updates, because technically, let's say the animation system is going to be completely redone. So we will have as well to redo all of the animation we've made so far.
Everything is going to be broken.
Oh yes.
As
Well, we
usual.
knew it, so that was part of the deal.
Yeah.
But as planes, I don't know, because I play a lot of DCS, and all those IL2 games, and for me, even 8 kilometers square, that's that's not big enough for me to have planes to properly play them. I mean, you just go full speed with the Spitfire, and like 10 seconds later, you don't. I mean, you are on the other side of the map, so. And I don't really want to slow the planes down as well to make it feels like it's longer. So I don't know. I mean, that's an open question at the moment. We are not planning to have uh, playable planes. That's not planned at the moment.
Playable planes, but that's an important. Okay, I'm gonna remember that for a question I have later. Then, because you said playable planes.
Yeah, I know it. I know which one.
Okay, so obviously, you have your idea. You're gonna do market garden. I saw lots of stuff about the British and the Germans. Now, the particular battle, the Bloody Seventh, which like you said, refers to the Arnhem Bridge. That's all the British. I mean, the Americans didn't do jack shit basically over here. But a few kilometers south, there are lots of Americans, died and fought. Are you planning? And this is again like a question that's maybe a bit more applicable in a year or whatever from now. But let's say you've released your initial game or the initial mod, and you're quite happy with the way that the British and Germans are looking. Will you be thinking of doing, let's say, Nijmegen or Eindhoven area, or just adding the Americans in general as like a different playable faction for some more variety?
As a plan, it is not planned today, but when I see people on YouTube and on the forum say, hey, do the Eastern faction or do Pacific or do North Africa, I don't think they realize how much work it means, because we would have to remodel all the vehicles, the buildings, the texture, all those stuff will have to be done again. But if we are going for let's say the 101st Airborne or the 82nd Airborne from the US troops, they were in Eindhoven, and then we're also moving up north. So that would be something that is totally doable. And for us, doing the US paratroopers would be, I think, the first faction we would add if we had to add one.
But also, people don't quite take into consideration off-world industries, developers to squad. They're around 30 people, give or take, and they are growing. But they currently have 4 factions and a fairly limited number of maps. And we're not quite as big as off-world. Obviously, we're a mod team. But yeah, exactly, making whole new assets for it, especially places like Stalingrad and stuff. You'd have to create all of the city building, the whole landscape, all of the factions, the weapons, the clothing, all of that again. That takes a lot of time, and it's a big process.
We need dedicated textures for all that and everything. It'll be look completely different to Western Europe. So yeah, it would take a lot of effort, I think. Maybe when we're bigger.
Yeah.
but not
the thing is we want to grow bigger. We want to have like a decent product, and we want to cover as much as possible of World War II. We already have 42 weapons modeled and textured and in game, so that's a lot for a mod team. We have, I think, if I'm correct, 19 vehicles completed. So that was 1 year, barely 1 year of work. So if we were to add an extra faction, I think it would be the US paratroopers.
True. But we're also sorry to interrupt. We're also lucky that we're able to build upon Offworld's foundation of squad. We're not coding like the actual how the game works. That's down to them. So we're kind of lucky in that aspect. We can spend a bit more time and a few more resources on making all these assets over a fairly short period of time.
Well, you guys already basically answered my next question, because obviously, after adding more factions like America or like in general other factions, the other fronts question you've basically answered. Right now you guys seem to be focusing on what you're doing right now, and then in the very far future, who knows, right? That's basically the answer to if I were to ask like Pacific or Stalingrad, for example, or other fronts in general.
If we were to do another theater, like something, we talk about it quite often on Discord, but I don't think we would go for something too obvious. We would not do like Normandy, or I think we would like to get something fresh. Like we talked about invasion of Italy, or we talked about Greece and all those theater that we almost never see in games. But yeah, I think we would avoid the classic Stalingrad or Omaha Beach or all those stuff. I think so.
Damn it! No shooting down GIs running onto the beach with an MG42 then anytime soon.
Well, why not? Why not? Really, if we grow big and we have like a decent team, we could like have one part of the team focusing on Normandy and another one on something else. But yeah, that's way down the road.
I think once we've got the US factions and stuff done, it's just a matter of trying to get the textures and stuff and the levels for Normandy, etc. like that. So I think once we've got some of the content in place, it will be easier, but that's down the line, you know. It takes time.
Technically, yeah, the tanks from Normandy, they went up to Holland, to Netherlands,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the Market Garden. So it's just a matter of changing the camo paint. And if we want to put them in the desert, then I just have to go back to Substance and switch the camo to desert paint. So that would be kind of easy. But adding a new faction on the different continent, that's crazy.
That's like a whole different like level of having
It's
to
doing it again,
spend time.
basically.
Yeah, basically. So you mentioned, historical accuracy, and you mentioned that when you mentioned the game mode, for example. Now, it happens that I know a decent amount about Market Garden. I live here, so I'm kind of forced to, and I did some projects about it back in university and school. And this is a question that a lot of devs just always say no to, and the reason's pretty simple. And I guess that maybe you're a bit different, but we'll see, because obviously the Waffen SS was one of the major enemies of the British near Arnhem. If it wasn't their infantry, it were like Panthers, tanks in general. But a lot of developers feel like including the Waffen SS is a bad thing, because people, will be like, oh man, the Waffen SS were bad, this and that. And devs just try and basically either shy away, or they try not to include Waffen SS because they're afraid of backlash from the community, or from, issues, for example, in Germany, where Waffen SS and swastikas in general are like still a thing that's just not done in video games. How are you as a team looking at this? Are you trying to like include Waffen SS and swastikas, or are you going to be going around it still because of, obvious reasons, legal or your own reasons?
The thing is, right now we are quite small and people don't really know us. We try to get a bigger audience, or at least more people to know us. And right now I can tell you is we are doing something simple. If the uniform had something on it, then it's going to be in the game. That's simple. If a box that was painted with a swastika on it, then it's going to be on the box. That easy. It's not us thinking it's good, it's bad. I don't even want to get into that discussion about good and bad. It's just that's how it was, and it's not redoing anything. Or if I play as the Axis, it's not because I'm a Nazi in my head or anything like this. It's just
it's what you used. Yeah, it's what you used.
Yeah, it was here, and that's it. Some people might play German because they want to feel like Nazi. Some people might play British because they think it's the good side and all. But it doesn't really matter to us. That's why we wanted a neutral name as well. Post Scriptum. It's about letters from one side to the family. Doesn't matter what the side is.
It's about the soldiers, not necessarily about the reasons behind.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, my comment never was like to imply a good or bad side. I just, lots of developers.
No, but I know what you mean.
Try not to include swastikas and SS runes and stuff. So that's what my question was about that. But I'm glad to hear that you want to go for historical accuracy, and lots of people that I know, and myself included, it's like it was on there. Just put it in, and But okay, I understand why big companies.
You can show it in the movie. You can show it in the documentary, but you can't show it in the game, just because in a game you are part of the game. But I don't know, it just makes no sense. And I'm not really into the idea of it's not because you don't talk about it that it didn't happen. So
it's a massive topic that we could be talking about for months.
Yeah, for hours.
Oh no, obviously, but I'm glad to hear your guys' perspective on that. So,
but again, if we get pressure and if it means that we won't be able to release the mode, or Steam is going to blacklist or something, I don't know. That might change in the future. Don't take my word like forever and ever. But right now, if it was on the truck and you had like a swastika on the truck, then it's going to be on that same truck. That's it.
Okay. Now, something that I personally have a semi-hardon for are tripod-mounted weapons. And when you talk about airborne and when you talk about Market Garden, I always remember seeing a couple of pictures of whether it's Germans or British or even Americans. They always have their beautiful MG42 with a tripod, or their Bren guns or Vickers with tripods. And this is not something that you have in Squad. Well, you do have buildable ones like emplacement or static weapons, but are you in any way, shape, or form trying or thinking of making, for example, a machine gunner with an assistant machine gun in a squad, and he can put his tripod down, or is that just something that I have in my mind from Arma because it's easier to do in Arma?
Yeah, I have Arma in my mind as well. When you talk about it, I'm a big fan of Ace. I've been playing it since probably Arma 2 Operation Arrowhead. So yes, right now it's emplacement, just like in Squad, nothing different. But we had this conversation, like maybe a rifleman, he can have the tripod on his back, and the MG gunner, you have the MG in his hands, and then the rifleman would have to drop the tripod somewhere, the same way we would drop an emplacement, and then only the MG42 can go on that emplacement and attach his own gun to that tripod.
Okay, so you are thinking about it somewhere, but it's funny because I always think of Arma when I think of tripods.
Yeah,
Because
I'm a
I guess
huge
it
fan
works
of
better.
Ace, so if we can get something like that, it would be amazing.
Yeah,
I also love Ace, by the way.
yeah, Ace is great. The only problem is it can be very clunky. So
Oh
we've
yeah,
got to,
that's very
so
true.
we've got to be very careful with that kind of stuff, I think.
True, but we're working with UE4, not.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Which makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways.
So sorry, not Squad. No, in Squad. Sorry. Every single person, whether you're an SL, a sniper, a machine gunner, or even the stupid, random rifleman, they have a radio. Now, I know tanks and certain peoples in leadership had radios, but the stock and standard, like British or German riflemen, did not have a radio. Are you going to give them radios anyway, or are you taking them away and only giving them to SLs, or like how are you going to do the communication side of your game? Because obviously trying to keep 9 people together close enough where local voice is going to be a thing might be hard if you're keeping that 9 squad like limit that you have in Squad. So like how are you going to do communication both inter squad and between squads in Post Scriptum?
Right now, we are doing the exact same as the Squad game, but to be very honest with you, is my wish would be to have like a radio operator in the squad, and then the squad leader would have to talk directly to the radio operator and say, hey, say Squad 2, we are going that way. And then the radio operator would have to say it again through the radio to that guy. And that little thing I would like to add as well is when you are talking through the radio, direct comm is also activated, because right now when you talk in the squad, no one hear you in the direct comm, but you are talking. So yeah, we want to do something like that. And maybe that's a big maybe. If the radio operator turn his microphone on, then the squad leader that is close by talking in direct comm could be able to talk directly without having to pass the order. That's something I have in my mind.
That sounds really almost like Arma-like again, like the way that T-Far works or Acre. But right now you're saying that you have still is like every person has a radio, but you want to go over to one person per squad's gonna have a radio.
It's mostly because we're using the SDK from squad, so we don't have access to the core source, the source and all those files. So right now it's not a priority to change it, but in the future, when we have maybe more file or access to more content, then we might be able to tell it to our developer, and he might do it.
Okay.
But I want it. Yes, that's for sure.
I mean, I can see that. So then, tanks. Tanks and armor. This is something, you guys all seem to have played Arma. I mean, you've even mentioned Iron Front. And one thing that pops to mind, or one thing that one thing that certainly doesn't pop to mind when you mention Arma is vehicles and the way they work. I like infantry combat in Arma. I think it's pretty good. But when you mention vehicles, whether it's AI controlled or people controlled or person controlled or whatever, it's pretty not great. It's absolutely pretty like bad, honestly. How are you going to do your game with tanks? Are you trying to copy the way it worked in PR World War II, or are you trying to do the way it works in Squad with armor penetration, or are you going to have complete RNG? Like, do you have any idea like how you want a Tiger and a Sherman 76 to be facing off, and who will win?
Well, right now we are based on Squad, and Squad is not using a proper collision system or a penetration system. It's not, but I think it's planned. I don't want to go. I think it's planned. So if it's not planned the way we want, for me, my reference in terms of tank battle would be World War II Online again. So if it's not the way we would like it to be in Squad, then I might have a couple of developers working full time on getting a proper system. Something I don't know. People are going to scream, but I'm going to compare this to War Thunder or World of Tank, like proper
Yeah.
angles and stuff. But yeah, World War II Online for me is a big reference. So I'd like to do something similar. And again, in Squad, only the driver is able to turn out from the driver position. So we want to add the commander on the tank, and you can open the hatch and talk directly to people that are next to the tank, and you can use your binoculars, and maybe you can get your pistol and shoot people that are like 3-4 meters away from your tank.
Also, you got to bear in mind when you're in the tank, you won't be able to hear anyone, that's outside because it's so loud. So
Yeah, obviously.
you got to be careful, with that. You got to use your commander, and make sure he doesn't die as well when he's trying to speak to people.
So you're basically more going for an RO2 then? Like, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have played World War II tanks. They're not like the best, but they have like the commander popping out, it being able to hear what's going on around inside him.
Yes, we are not planning to do tank interior itself because that's a massive amount of work.
Oh,
So
yeah,
right now it's going to be exactly like in Squad. Maybe in the future, if we get success, then we can relocate resources to model the interior. But in terms of animation, I kind of like Red Orchestra too. I'm not a big fan of the game itself. I was crazy fan of the first one and Darkest Hour. But I like the way they do the turning in out from the hatch. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, I agree. So obviously, don't be offended, but one of you has a great, I think, Scottish accent, and you said you worked on the maps.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, right.
So, there's, I mean, I live here, and there's only like so much you can make. How many maps, if you're allowed to disclose that, how many maps do you have right now, and how many maps do y'all reckon you are going to have when the public, the not devs or not special, people like, for example, me or other people, when you release this to the public in like version, I don't know, let's say in the beta or whatever, how many maps will you have then, and how many maps do you have now?
I can't comment on how many we'll have because we're still working on it currently. But at the moment, we have, I think it's 4 current maps. One is a range map, which is going to be quite similar to the one in Squad right now, the training one, where it's a range and you can just muck about with vehicles and weapons and stuff like that. So we're trying to replicate that, but based in a Western Europe theatre kind of style, where it's like fields and loads of forests and stuff like that. So it's called Arnhem Range, so it's going to be like that. And the other maps we've got Healsome, which is near in the Oosterbeek area, and we've got another map called Johanna Hove Farm near Oosterbeek as well. Those are 2 separate maps, so we're trying to get some maps in that area and try and simulate the war that happened there, the fighting, between the Germans.
But you cannot really comment on how many maps you'll think you'll have or you're
Not
going
at the
to have.
moment. I don't think so, unless Breeze can maybe elaborate on that, but I'm not too sure at the moment.
Well, we plan to have like 4 maps on the first release, the public release, we could call it. We don't have any ETA on it. It's way too far because we don't have we haven't test our game yet. So we don't know. But I can say that we have, I think, 6 to 7 maps, and 4 are being worked on at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have one massive one.
Yeah.
Is that the Arnhem Bridge?
Yeah, there is a John Frost something in it.
All right. So you already mentioned how do you say that? You already mentioned the historical game mode, and I know AAS and Insurgency are obviously 2 game modes from Squad. Now, as far as I'm aware, the Germans are never going to do an insurgency war versus the British, and vice versa. The British aren't going to look for weapon caches because the Germans obviously aren't mujahideen or terrorists or insurgents. So how are you going to use a more conventional, more, I don't know, maybe older style war? How are you trying to do that, like game mode wise? Like you already mentioned historical game mode with more historical accuracy, but can we expect any like actual game modes where like there's objectives that are different from the ones that we have in Squad, like I don't know, like capture the flag or a kind of like domination, like Battlefield kind of game mode?
Well, no domination, that's for sure. Something I like personally, but I haven't talked about it publicly on inside the team. I really like the warfare we have in Arma. So I like the idea of having 2 separate sides, like randomly spawned, and then you can evolve your base, and according on resources, you can develop like a certain amount of tanks, or you can unlock special gear. But that's a big maybe. So right now we are planning AAS and maybe like the Blitzkrieg in Arma.
Oh, so okay. But what you meant was like Wasteland and King of the Hill, right? That's the ones you were going off just now when you meant like the base building and stuff.
Yes, maybe not the King of the Hill, because in that mode it's based on your character. So if I close the game and I play next week, it remembers
Oh, that's true.
my
Yeah,
achievement. So no, it's game based. It's really like a warfare, or not domination. I think it was called Evolution on Arma, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've played that. Yeah, where you have to capture cities and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I think it
something
was
like
called
that.
Domination. I think, yeah, or something.
Yeah, so it's going to, but again, that's a very big maybe. And right now we plan on AAS at least, so we can balance our game and see what's wrong. And then when we have something solid, then we can start thinking about different game modes.
Okay. Well, I have 2 more questions. Well, 2.5 more like. Well, 2.5. So one question, and you already saw it coming. And when you mentioned we won't have player-controlled aircraft or player-controlled planes, obviously the British arrived either by plane or by glider. Will there be glider spawns? Will there be like paradroppings, especially from the British side? Are you going to include like horse gliders or anything that flies, whether it's play controlled or not?
So we won't script any gliders. Every gliders we have on Hillsum, for instance, they are landed or crash landed in field. So that's a static mesh. But the original idea would be for the British forces to respawn in the plane in the C-47 above cloud level, even though it was a clear day, but it's going to be about cloud level for technical reasons. And then we would have to actually go to the door and jump. And as you go through a cloud, you would be teleported, let's say 150 meters above the ground level in the actual level. And you would have to steer your parachute over the last few meters to land. And until you cap the first point, you would have to keep jumping. And when you secure the first line, then you can spawn from the ground.
That sounds really awesome, actually. So there's one last question before I have well, actually there's like 1.5 more. Something that I learned to appreciate in games like Verdun, in games like RO2 or in Rising Storm, even in games like Arma, where there's mods that allow you to do so. And there's probably more games that I'm forgetting right now. Manual bolting. I have not found an option to do so in Squad. I don't even think there is a... Maybe there is there a bolt action rifle in Squad?
No, don't think so. No, not yet.
But basically, where manual bolting, where I'm not sure if you know what it is, but you fire and then you have to manually left click or whatever button you use to bolt the next round in, which I personally like because you can, if you're sniping, for example, in RO2 and you have manual bolting on, you can fire, see the effect of your round and see where it hit or where it didn't hit, and then like rebolt and do the next one. Besides the fact that it's also quicker and it just feels a little bit more like you're actually in the game, and it's a little bit more of I don't know how I said it, like it drags you a little bit into game more, where you have to like manually bolt it yourself. Is that something you're trying to do in
Yeah, you've just described it exactly what we are planning to do. Just, I mean, exactly like this. So I have nothing to add. That's what we're going to do.
Is it? But the thing is it going to be an option where you can say yes or no, or a feature that's like in the game?
No, it's not an option.
To deal with it?
No, you have to deal with it. It's not an option.
Well, I mean, I like it personally, but there's people, oh my god, I don't like this. But okay, I'm glad, because that's like one of the main reasons why I like bolt actions in games like Arma and RO2, where you have to
we have a very clear picture of the game we want. At least I do have a very clear picture of the game I want Post Scriptum to be. So yeah, no option, and but I'm going to say today, no compromise. We go straight forward to the game we want.
Okay, it's good to hear you guys know what you want, and you don't like want to take shit from other people necessarily on how your game should be or how your mod should be. So there's the very last question, which you've already touched on a little bit, and I know all dev teams hate, from like the simple modelers to the lead dev. But I've got to ask it, like, for YouTube's sake and for my own kind of sanity's sake. You mentioned that it was unknown, but I have to ask it. Release date, ? Is there anything, whether it's a year or a decennium or like anything you can tell me and us people watching, like what do you have in mind?
For us, as of today, because we don't have the DLL to compile the game, I would like to say as soon as possible, but again, that would be not true because we don't even know. I heard an interview of Iron Taxi saying that the modding tool would be able to compile around March or April. Wasn't sure, but if we follow that path, then can't be until April, I would say. But we need a lot of internal testing and stuff. I don't want the game going public before we can properly test it. But for me, it's going to be in the next 12 months.
Okay, well, if you need a tester, I mean, I'm always available. Well, I guess with that, I wanted to thank you guys personally for like having me here today and for hanging out with me for almost an hour. It was awesome to learn about this new thing that's coming up, and I am 101% sure that if I say that I am not alone when I say I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. And I mean, you don't have a release date yet, and maybe somewhere down the line you'll have one, and I will write that down in my agenda with lots of circles and stars and happy faces around it. And I mean, thank you guys for having me, and I really look forward to what you guys can come up with.
Yeah, thanks for letting us talk to you.
And the main important thing I would like to finish with is it's very hard for us to get people to know us because Squad is already a niche game and we are a mod from a niche game. So yeah, the more people to know us, the better. And if you like it or if you think that you are going to like it, please share it with your friends. It's very important to us.